You're listening to Inside You with Michael Rosenbaum. How are you, folks? Great episode today. It's really exciting. I've been friends with James Gunn for a long, long time, whether he likes to admit that or not. He always gives me shit, but Jimmy, I know you love me. That's all I could say. And a lot going on. You know, he just went to Ireland to, I don't want to use the word dump, but spread his father's ashes, who I adored, anyone who ever came into contact with Big Jim Gunn loved him, and I miss him, and I think that was the whole family was going out there, and it was very personal. James has always, worn his emotions on his sleeve, and he's, what you see is what you get. Sometimes he'll say stuff because, he's not going to bullshit you, and I'm just super proud of him. I was friends with him. We were doing things like PG porn, and he asked me to do PG porn, and I did some interview show with, that he wanted to do, and just going to, his screening for Slither, and he was always so passionate about everything he did, and he just put it all out there. Like you could see it, you could see the dirt, you could see the grime, you could see the work, and so I'm just, it's amazing. It doesn't shock me. But it shocks me to think that one of your buddies who, you're roaming around the town with and doing your thing and making what you're making, then all of a sudden you're doing blockbuster movies that you're directing, and then you're running a studio. It's asinine to think that, someone coming from such humble origins, it's a cool thing. I think, dreams do come true. I think this is what he's always wanted, was to make movies, to tell stories since he was a kid, making, 8 millimeter, 16 millimeter movies with his brothers and his sister. Beth, I can't forget you. But I find it fascinating and exciting. And then watching him get married and going to Aspen and going to his bachelor party, and, no strippers or anything. It's just a bunch of guys hanging out at a house, telling stories. And it was emotional, and we talk about a bit about everything. Obviously, me, I'm still like the kid in the candy store, like, hey, what about the, we can only talk about so much, and I can get so deep, but he's pretty damn open, and I appreciate that, Jimmy. And you deserve all the success in the world, and it's awesome. Please follow the show. Please, if you like this episode and you're like, hey, it wasn't a bad interview, maybe you'll listen to it. And the handle's Ryan.
At Inside of You Pod on Twitter, at Inside of You Podcast on Instagram and Facebook.
That is correct. The store is the Inside of You online store. We've got a bunch of new stuff on there. The Talkville podcast is going. We just finished season 2, so make sure you watch that. And what else? I will be in, I'll be in DC. I'll be in Rhode Island. I'll be in a lot of cons coming up, so check it out. And the 24th of June, Sunspin, my band, will be playing. Sunspin.com, get tickets. There's tons of cool merch there too. And you can go to stageit.com and type in Sunspin and support the band. Support the band. And without further ado, why don't we just do this? Let's get inside of James Gunn.
It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience.
What were you just eating? What was it, a lozenge?
Yeah, a cough drop.
Is it a
Because I don't want to cough during this interview.
That's good. Is it a lozenge or a lozenge? When I was a kid, I always thought it was a lozenger.
No, nobody thinks that. That's
yeah,
not
I know.
like
I'm not that. I didn't get good grades.
Yeah.
Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I could guess it. I could trace it back from my knowledge of you today.
Do you remember some of my stories at your bachelor party?
Yeah, you made everybody cry one time.
I couldn't believe that. I said yes. I go, I'm sorry for sharing that. You go, no, actually, you really made me emotional.
That was the first time I ever liked you.
Is that true? I mean, you liked me maybe more after that, right?
I did like you more after that.
Really?
Yeah. No, you really shared something incredibly personal about yourself, and everybody was crying.
I didn't notice that.
Even Chuck Roven was getting teary-eyed.
Chuck Roven, the big
Chuck,
producer.
Chuck was like, wow.
He's fucked
This
up.
is heavy.
Well, we all got a little heavy. I thought that was what was nice about it. It wasn't like your typical Hollywood bachelor party where everybody goes to strip bars and girls.
Yeah.
It was just the guys, your friends,
Yeah.
at a cool place,
Yeah.
at a house, doing little things for you and
Yeah.
eating well and telling stories.
Yeah.
And that's what you wanted
Yeah, that's what I wanted. That's what I like.
because you've been to the other ones.
I have been, but I haven't been to it. I don't think I've been to well, let's see. No, I've been to strip club bachelor parties, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, me too.
It's been a long time. And last time I went to one, I won't say who the person is. I went to one in Vegas, and then a lot of the guys went to a strip club, but I didn't go to the strip club
Why didn't you?
because I'm in a relationship now.
And you're like, don't want to even go there. Don't even want to see.
Yeah.
Don't want to like just even put yourself in any situation.
Well, it's
It's not that you don't trust yourself.
It's not even that I wouldn't go. I just don't have the desire to go. Also, I get recognized everywhere now. So it's like, I don't really want to go to a strip club and have pictures show up somewhere or whatever. It's like,
That's true. You have to worry about that now.
Yeah.
Oh, head of DC, strip bar.
well, this was long before that.
yeah, that was a long time ago.
But even still, I wouldn't get like lap dance. I mean, for me in my relationship, I would consider lap dances probably not kosher within my relationship.
really?
Yeah.
So if I was in a relationship with a woman and I went to a strip bar and I had a lap dance, I guess you get aroused.
I don't make rules for other people.
That's you.
That's for me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about this and God damn it. Well, we're going to use it. Don't worry. You won't be able to hear
all right.
it. It's your favorite. It's Toto.
Oh my God.
You know my music. You know what's funny is you lambast me for my music. Yet sometimes in your soundtracks, there's songs that I'm like, that's a Rosenbaum.
Yeah, I use some Rosenbaum songs.
Yeah.
I know, but you have to realize my soundtracks are tailored to fit the movie. They aren't necessarily what my tastes are. You know that my taste is
I know your
very
taste
different
is
from,
different.
you know. I mean, Guardian Street's a little bit different. There's a couple songs that are very much James Gunn songs in there. There's, the song by X, Poor Girl. That's one of my favorite songs.
Right.
There's the Replacement song, I Will Dare. That's classic James Gunn song.
What would you say is a Rosenbaum song in that movie?
In that one,
That you go, Rosenbaum, I like this.
less than that one, but maybe, I don't know, you like Heart? You like Crazy on You?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Did you hear their rendition of the Led Zeppelin?
I did,
When-
actually.
Wasn't that great?
Yeah.
Just you're not a huge Heart fan.
No, I like Heart.
You like Heart. One of the best
I'm not a
voices
huge
in
Led
rock.
Zeppelin fan.
Are you really not?
No. I like them. I have a problem with the fact that they ripped off a lot of those early songs.
Like which songs?
Their first albums, they had to share all the credit with old guys that they ripped off. They now have to share credit with
For
them.
big songs?
all their big songs, bro. They just ripped them all off.
I never knew this.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know it. They just stole songs from
Like Black Dog.
They sold. I can't remember, but
What
Stairway
song?
to Heaven.
What song was that?
That was another song by like an old, blues musician or something. I swear, look at the credits. They had to change them all.
So it was,
and they weren't like that when they first, released the album.
was it so when you first heard their albums, you're like, this is amazing, and then when you found that out, it kind of tainted your...
Listen, I'm a punk rock kid, right? So
Yeah.
I liked, I was too young for British punk rock, but I remember I was very young when I saw the Sex Pistols on the American Music Awards for the first time. I must have been 10.
Right.
And I saw the Sex Pistols, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, first of all, I can't believe that was on. It's like Dick Clark announcing the American Music Awards, and now live from London, the Sex Pistols, and then they have the Sex Pistols and people with enormous safety pins through their chins, and God Save the Queen, and he's just and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm here, a kid in rural Manchester, Missouri, like. Something I never thought I'd see. And I became obsessed with that. And so, over the next few years, there was always this thing that like the Sex Pistols were the most extreme. Like they were the coolest.
DRI, Dead Kennedys.
Well, that was more, so I was mostly into British punk. So it was like, the Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Jam, Buzzcocks, Generation X. Did
you like the Smiths or anything, or was that too melodic?
I liked the Smiths, but you have to remember the Smiths was a little bit later. So I got into punk. Well, I guess I got into Smiths in high school right after I got into, but I was never like huge Smiths. I like the Smiths.
Were there some songs in Guardians that you really wanted in there, but you're like, they fought you on it all?
No, nobody ever fought me on anything.
Really?
Yeah.
First one they probably did.
No. Never fought me on anything. What happened was, so, on the first script, because I write all the songs into the script.
Right.
And on the first script, Kevin Feige read the script and he said, he said this in an interview, so I'm not like betraying any confidence.
Right.
He goes, oh, well, that's cute. He thinks these are the songs that are going to be in the movie.
Because that's a no-no. That's a sort of one of those.
I mean, there's a lot of no-nos in script writing that are not necessarily no-nos if you're also the director. Because to me, the script is a blueprint for the movie. So I put lots of things in. Like I put in Guardians 3 script, I have drawings of all the characters that I put in the script. So, there's drawings of Floor and Lila and all those things that I drew and put in the script. That would necessarily be a no-no if you're just a
because you wanted the reader to, when the studio read this, you wanted them to see what you were talking about, not just say, "Oh, this." Yeah,
I wanted you to know what they looked like,
and the emotion would come out more.
And I wanted to set a design for them, and also, there were little things like, at the end when Nowhere and the Arete line up in a certain way when Kraglin and Nebula are driving them towards each other. I drew a diagram of what that looked like because it's kind of a complex thing to, write out, but visually it's pretty easy to see.
Are you a good artist, or do you get help sometimes on the drawings? That
I'm an okay cartoonist, right? So I can, draw okay, enough to, put in like, what Floor looks like. Or
would you ever ask for help? Can you draw something a little better so they can get a visual of it? You have those guys, right? Gals, people.
No. I mean, I did have, we did some of that, but at the beginning it was just me drawing it,
Now, one thing knowing you is like, when you were a kid, is there something you always wanted to be, for lack of a better word, in control of your own destiny, in control of your visions? This is the way I want to do it. Have you always been like that? I want it done this way, and this is how we're going to do it. Success or failure, this is my vision. And did you sway away? Did you veer away from that ever? Or did you kind of, because a lot of people will be like, okay, the studio wants this. I'm going to give them what I think they want and what I want.
No, I don't. It's more complicated than either of those things for me, because I think the thing that you say that doesn't strike true is, success or failure. Either way, at the end of the day, once you finish a project, it is success or failure. It's either way. It's whatever it is. Like once I finish something, it's out of my hands. That's going to be whatever it is. It's going to make however much money it's going to be. It's going to be received by the audience and critics, however it's going to be received. But I want something to be successful. So when you're making a film and when you're making a movie for hundreds of millions of dollars, I don't sit there and go, oh, this is all about my expression and it's going to be whatever I want it to be no matter what.
Right.
However, so I listen to other people a lot. Like when you're on my set, I'm constantly asking people questions. I'm constantly, saying, what do you think of that?
I love that. My
VFX supervisor, Steph, sits next to me. And I'm constantly saying, do you like that? Or was it better when he did it the other way? Do you think that shot works? Is that little hitch in the shot? Is that going to screw us up? Can you fix that?
And you probably know in your gut, but you want someone you respect and trust to kind of confirm that maybe?
I just want to know what other people's opinions are. So I like taking that into account. That's a part of the filmmaking process for me, other people's opinions. The testing process for me is partially harrowing and partially really fun. If you use the testing process in the right way, where you show a movie in front of an audience and you find out what works and what doesn't work, it can be really helpful to you. Now, it's awful because you're putting a movie out there, and when you're showing it in Los Angeles, people are especially critical. Also, when your movies test really well, it feels really great. Also, I have to say, which I've been really fortunate with the past few. But it does help, seeing what works and what doesn't, what confuses people, what doesn't. When you're making a movie, you're making a giant machine that's supposed to make people and audiences feel a certain way.
Right.
And so you want to find out what works, because sometimes something will stop people that you didn't intend. And sometimes something will confuse people that you didn't know about, that you always are revealed something in those early test screenings.
Inside of You is brought to you by neurohacker Qualia Senolytic. Let me tell you something about this. I take this every day. I've talked about this before, Ryan, but I didn't even know I was taking something from a sponsor. I thought I had purchased it myself. I didn't know they delivered me. And I started just taking it because, like, oh, this got to be. And I noticed a difference. And then all of a sudden I go, oh, you have to read sponsors ads. And I was like, well, that's good because I like this product a lot. It's pretty fantastic because, look, if you're the older you get and you got to start out, it's good to just try and be healthy your whole life. But especially I'm 50 now and, staying in physically fit, and mentally fit place is just as important. Your physical and your mental they all go together. And, and then using this product and knowing that I'm valuing the most research-backed ingredients known to science for a better aging process, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel better, and every morning I take it. Our sponsor, Neurohacker, packs 7 of the most science-backed senolytic ingredients into one formula called Qualia Senolytic, and you can take it just 2 days a month to help you achieve fast, noticeable benefits for a much better aging process. We're always trying to slow down the aging process. I look in the mirror and I'm like, good Lord, what happened to you? But I've been taking this and I've noticed a substantial difference. I really have. It's just something that I don't know what it is, but I just seem more focused. I feel like when I'm coming up with ideas more. For me, it's just helping me. And I'm so glad that I started taking it before I knew they were a sponsor. So I strongly suggest. My body, my energy levels feel younger, definitely younger, after just a couple of months of taking this stuff. So it's easy. Just 2 days a month, I noticed massive aging benefits, making an easy addition to my health regimen.
The formula is non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, and the ingredients are meant to complement one another, factoring in the combined effect of all ingredients together.
And Ryan, guess what else? This stuff is backed. It's backed by a 100-day money-back guarantee, so you have almost 3 months to try Qualia Senolytic from Neurohacker at no financial risk and decide for yourself. I want you to do that. Do it for free. Just try this stuff for 3 months and tell me you don't feel more focused. Tell me you don't feel different. I certainly do, or I wouldn't be sitting here. We turn down a lot of sponsors. It's very hard, but sometimes I'm like, well, I don't believe in this product. I believe in Neurohacker. So if you're in your late 20s or older, adding Neurohacker's Qualia Senolytic to your diet can play a crucial role in combating negative aging symptoms. Just go to neurohacker.com/inside for up to 50% off Qualia Senolytic. And as a listener of Inside of You, use the code INSIDE at checkout for an extra 15% off your first purchase.
That's neurohacker.com/inside to try Qualia Senolytic with code INSIDE and start aging on your terms.
That's neurohacker.com/inside to try Qualia Senolytic with code INSIDE and start aging on your terms.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The products and statements are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Inside of You is brought to you by Rocket Money. You want to save money? Just listen. This is so easy. Rocket Money. How many times you have subscriptions and you're like, why have I been paying for this? It happens to me all the time where you want to see one of those shows on this new streamer because there's a million. And you're like, it's on this streamer called Lumpy. And Lumpy has this show I want to see, so I have to subscribe and pay $7.99. And then I forgot it because it's a free trial. And now I've spent $89 on this show. You don't have to do that anymore because Rocket Money is going to save you money. What's great about this is Rocket Money canceled the subscription for me that was otherwise time-consuming, tricky. I just forgot it. This is what they do. I know that Rocket Money has saved me hundreds of dollars. There's no doubt about that. And I could save you up to much more than that. And it's worth it. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, helps you lower your bills all in one place.
Over 80% of people have subscriptions that they forgot about, and chances are you're one of them.
Yeah, I'm one of them. And like that Stars app, just to watch one show, Ryan, Or how about the free gaming trial you never actually used? Rocket Money will quickly and easily find your subscriptions for you. And for any of you who don't want to pay for any more, just hit cancel and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. It is that easy.
Rocket Money also helps you manage all your finances in one place and automatically categorizes your expenses. So you can easily track your budget in real time and also get alerted if anything looks off.
Over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, saving the average person up to $720 a year. What are you waiting for? This is easy. Rocket Money. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions. Manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/inside. That's rocketmoney.com/inside. rocketmoney.com/inside.
Now, there's also this whole top 2 boxes thing where I don't know if you know how you've done testing, right?
Yeah.
So you know that there's,
no STDs.
For audiences, it's like in the top 2 boxes, there's, you want the movie to test in the top 2 boxes. So you want very good and excellence. And sometimes, usually, I've been fortunate because my movies have tested well in the top 2 boxes for the most part.
Right.
But that can also be kind of a harness trying to get those top 2 boxes, because what you want to know from a test screening is what works, what doesn't, what gets laughs, what moves people, what confuses people, where do people go off course? And that really doesn't have anything to do with top 2 boxes. That has to do with, more than anything else, sitting in the audience with them, watching the movie and kind of feeling it, and then asking questions of a focus group afterwards.
Right.
That's what helps the most. But it's a process that can really work, and some directors have a big issue with it, but I don't. But also the other thing is I do a lot of what I would call really small test groups. So I didn't invite you this time because you're in the movie,
right?
But I have a small group of people. I showed a lot of groups the movie of people I really trust.
And you learned a lot from that.
Yeah, filmmakers, directors, actors, writers.
Do they sit in a room sort of and answer, or say questions, or do you like it blindly, like they write it down? So
they don't write anything down. No, I ask them questions. So they can send me stuff afterwards, but
you don't get insulted at all.
I wouldn't say I never get insulted, but yeah, I'm pretty open, because
Right.
I realize everybody's reaction to a movie is just their reaction to a movie. So they may like a character, they may not like a character, whatever, but I'll sit there, we'll do all these mini test screenings with like 20 to 30 people, and we'll show them, certain people have always been a part of this group. Like
Right.
Jeremy Slater, I show it to every time. My brother, Brian, my cousin, Mark, Dave, Yarvo, I show every time.
Stevie?
Stevie's acted in almost all my movies, so I usually haven't shown him early on.
He's got a big part in this one.
Yeah, he's
like I noticed him. He's pretty
role.
prominent.
Yeah.
Do a quick Stevie. Nobody knows him, but I do, and I love him. And he's been in a lot of. You see him, you'll know him. But you do this. It's for me. Just do it for me, like saying James. Like,
I guess I don't know. Whatever you talk about.
Does he hate it?
He hates it. He says that doesn't sound like me at all.
There's so many questions I want to ask you.
Like, he plays Stevie Blackheart plays Steamy Blue Liver in Guardians 3. He's the guy that sets out all the cannons.
At the very end, you see him more like in the ship and all these
Yeah.
things, and like I've done it. Here's what I don't understand. Like you always.
What don't you understand?
Well, you
Michael?
always wanted to make movies, right? We know that.
Well,
I mean, for the most part, since you started making movies, you wanted to continue making movies.
mm-hmm.
Now, what's hard for me to wrap my head around is it's such a daunting task to make a movie, let alone a successful movie. But then you're doing all these things. Guardians 1 is a huge success. Guardians 2 is a huge success. Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, all these things. And then someone's over at DC says, hey, we want you to run the studio.
Yeah.
What would make someone, first of all, did you think about saying, no, that's not what I want to do, and almost say no?
When it first came up, I was like, and it didn't come up. Nobody came to me and said, do you want to run DC? But it came to me very early in the process. Would that be something you would be interested in? This is very early. And I was like, nah, I don't think so. And the reasons were because it was me and it wasn't me and Peter. what made it appealing to me eventually was because I also went to Peter early on, and he was like same way. But what eventually became appealing to me was doing it with Peter. So Peter Safran has been
great.
He's my manager, right? He's been my manager since I first moved to LA when he was the president of Brillstein Gray. Mm-hmm. We're very close friends. We've traveled together. We hang out with our families together. We're, close friends, and we've gotten maybe one or two arguments over the past 25 years of working together. We work together exceptionally well. We never step on each other's toes. I respect his opinion completely about many things, and he respects my opinion about creative stuff. And so when it came to us as a pair, and basically Peter sort of managing everything, working as a producer, and me basically working as a director, directing the creative aspects of things, that became a different story. That became suddenly an opportunity to do something that had never been done before, to create the biggest story ever told across, film, television, gaming, and more. And to really create a cohesive, DC universe. I also knew that there was going to be many challenges as we embarked on that journey because people have different ideas about how things are supposed to be. People have all sorts of things that they love, whether they love things from, the DCEU, or they love things from the Arrowverse, or they love things from the animated worlds or whatever. That is something that we knew was going to be a ring of fire we were going to have to walk through.
And you knew you were going to be loved and hated at the same time?
I knew,
because there's always people out there.
I knew I've been used to being loved and hated for a long time. Like, I'm on Twitter, that's what Twitter is. It's love and hate, Yeah. Twitter is like the prisoner with the love on one hand and hate on the other. They're just punching you in the face with both sides.
Yeah.
But I knew that knew there was going to be a period of hardship, and I knew that there had been spectacular missteps in the past with all sorts of different choices.
Good answer. But I'm thinking, were you thinking to be the head of DC, was this going to hinder me from continuing my filmmaking and being so, having all that passion into one focus, as opposed to now I'm going to direct a movie, but I also have to worry about running a studio. How do we do that?
Yeah.
I think Peter kind of helps that out because
Peter helps that out. I think that it's always been, I only have so much time in my day. I only have so much I can do. And I think it was always a question about how much am I going to spend on writing? How much am I going to spend on directing? How much am I going to spend, ushering other writers? How much am I going to spend ushering other directors? How much am I going to spend mapping out, sort of a story that other writers can follow? There's I only have so much I can do. I'm aware of that. And so, yeah, it did. And I love directing. So I didn't want to lose that either. But at my heart, I'm a storyteller. In my heart, I am not the same as other filmmakers, I don't think. Some other filmmakers for sure. But in my heart, I consider myself a storyteller. I don't consider myself a director over being a storyteller. I'm a storyteller first. And that means whatever way I'm able to tell that story, I'm okay. I have this conversation with Dave Yarva, the director of Brightburn, who's one of my best friends.
Love Dave.
Because he wants to direct movies. He's mostly interested in directing movies. That's what he wants to do. I'm like, if I can tell a great TV story, that is doing Peacemaker was absolutely great for me. Mm-hmm. Doing a movie is absolutely great. If I'm proud of what I'm putting out, I'm really happy. It doesn't really matter to me what that story is. I started out, I wanted to write comic books when I was younger. If I was writing comic books today, I'd probably be unhappy because, so few people are reading comic books. But I would probably be, really, happy with what my job was. I'd enjoy that storytelling process. So that's what's important to me. I just happen to be good at directing because directing takes a lot of different weird talents that I do many of those things, but not all well. And, being any director, there's always things that you do great and things you do okay. And it's a complicated job. It's a very complicated job.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp Online Therapy. I talk about therapy all the time and mental health, and this is what the podcast is all about. And I can't say enough about BetterHelp. They've been a great sponsor, and I think it's because it helps people, and it's simple and affordable. And, I know how much therapy can cost. Ryan, you've seen these guys in California or everywhere. It's just like they charge a fortune per hour, and it actually is added stress.
Yep.
So you're going into therapy stress, but BetterHelp to me is just the way to go. If you're worried about, the stigma it's going away. People now, if people train to get their muscles, your brain needs working out. It needs therapy. You need therapy. We need therapy. And you could talk about anything. You'd be surprised with little things that you don't think are big. And you talk to them about a therapist and you're like, oh, that's why I do that. Oh, you find so much rewarding things about yourself that you can turn around, you could change, you could work on, and you have somebody there who's a trained professional. And with everything that's going on around us, it can be hard to focus on our well-being. And many are stretched thin and burned out from the candle burning, both ends. And that's me. And you forget about you. Therapy is important. You need caring, compassionate people who want to take care of you. And those are found at BetterHelp.com. This totally online source for therapy has helped thousands find peace of mind and direction during these trying times. BetterHelp.com understands we all need to develop better coping skills and ways to set boundaries to empower us to become the best version of ourselves. Let me recommend BetterHelp.com if you're considering trying therapy. It's a quick questionnaire, and you'll be matched with a licensed therapist. And guess what? You can cancel at any time. You can quit a therapist and say, that's not working. He or she is not working, or they're not, it's not working, and go to someone else. Find someone else. That's it's a process. Sometimes you get lucky. Boom, first one. Ryan changed one time.
I did.
And now it's great.
It's great. I've been with this one for over a year.
But there you go. From the horse's mouth. No offense. Find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/inside today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/inside. This message is sponsored by Discover. Did you know you could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection? The latest innovation from Discover. Discover will help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And they'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app. See terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection. I think it's amazing how I look at your career, and I was there when you were we were hanging and, you were doing Human Z and PG porn.
I met you when I was directing. I met you when I was directing my first movie.
Slither?
Yeah.
No, Slither. Yeah.
Well, I didn't meet you then. I met you before then.
We met at the premiere for Without a Paddle and everything. Yeah, that's how we have mutual friends, and then we hit it off. So I saw you doing these little these little labor of loves. I'm going to do this with my brother and my friends, and I'm going to do PG porn with the guys, and I'm going to do this. And, and you were doing stuff, and you were working, and you were successful, and you had a little money. You weren't like, whoa.
Yeah.
And you were still living in the house over in Sherman Oaks.
Yeah.
And missed that house. It was great.
Yeah. Studio City.
Studio City.
Yeah.
Should I give the address?
No.
No. I just no.
Somebody lives there.
I know they do. They like, James Gunn lives here. He had sex in this room. But I look at that and I'm like, did you really think? Because I'm sure a lot of people were like going, hey, he's a good director. He makes some cool shit. He makes a cool horror movie. He makes this. For a studio to give you a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, to say here it seems unheard of. That they would be, well, what was his last movie? Oh, it was Memento. Okay, let's give him or it was something huge, something whatever. And it wasn't like you did something that was a fucking home run.
Right.
It was good. It was great, but it wasn't. So I know the story, but how hard did you have to push to really get something like that, to prove yourself, to prove your vision that it's going to work?
I would say I pushed really hard, but also I didn't push hard at all. So it was a combination, because I was ready to quit directing,
Really?
100%. I was like, listen, I was seeing how the tide was turning. I was seeing that, they were stopping making, mid-budget films. And that I always liked creating things that were somewhat within the zeitgeist. And I was seeing that most of the movies that they were going to let me direct, the $30 million movies, were gone. And that everything was big Marvel movies, and they're never going to give me that. And yes, I would love to do a Hulk movie. That was like a big one at the time.
But you didn't think it was going to happen.
But I didn't think there was any way it was going to happen. Even though I'd met with Marvel a couple times about little things. I tried to get them to do Hit Monkey. I tried to get them to do something else. I didn't think that they were going to hire me. They were going to hire me for some big movie, So I was like, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to focus. I see the future of television being really bright, which I was right about. And I just made a video game that did very well. And so I like doing that.
Was that Lollipop?
Lollipop Chainsaw.
I was in it.
Which you were in.
I was the head of Nick. I had no penis.
You were the male lead.
I love that. People still come up to me for autographs.
Yeah. So it's like I'm like, I'm going to focus on television and gaming. That's what I'm going to do. I'm done. And I told my agent, quit putting me out for movies because I'm going to focus on television and gaming. I just tried to get some movie that I couldn't get, which it seemed perfect for. And then Marvel called up and said, will he come in? We want to tell him about this thing we're doing. And I was like, God damn it. Because Marvel's far away. So at the time, now,
how far?
Now it's in Burbank, but at the time it was in Manhattan Beach.
Oh, that's an hour.
Dude, yeah.
That's a fucking
And this
hour.
was like, I was going to have to drive home in rush hour. So I was going to have to drive from Studio City into Manhattan Beach.
No.
So they could pitch me and they could check me off their list. And it's not really something that I'm going to want to do.
You think you're wasting 3 or 4 hours?
I think
of your
I'm
day.
wasting 4 hours of my day.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm like, okay. I drive down there. I remember stopping and getting a bite to eat because I was early and talking to my agent or my lawyer, Andrew Hurwitz, on the phone and being like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go on this thing. It's silly, but and I go in there and then they pitch me Guardians. And that's really how it started. So it started like that. And then, I've told the story many times about how it came to me and all this. But what I did was I worked really hard. Like there's that speech that Peter Quill gives in the first Guardians of the Galaxy where he says, this is about giving a shit. And that's what it was like for me for the first time, because I had attributed all of my success to really hard work and not giving a shit. Yeah. And I allowed myself to give a shit. I allowed myself to actually want to get this gig. And I sort of fell in love with the concept of doing the Guardians of the Galaxy. I had always wanted to do a space opera. That was my biggest dream, to do a space opera in my own way. And I saw the opportunity here. And so I really worked hard. And I probably worked harder than anybody else in terms of, I wrote up this huge Bible on what the visuals were going to be.
I remember how
I wrote I did storyboarded the whole first sequence from the movie. And, did a lot of work on the characters, that, all this art, all these things.
It was harder to prep this and get this all. By the time you went on set, it was almost like probably a little bit of a relief.
Oh, well, yes. On the first Guardians, absolutely. Because
you were prepared.
I'm incredibly prepared, but also what I wasn't prepared for was on the other movies I had done, I was better at most of the department heads at their jobs than they were. I knew more about a lot of those jobs than they did because I couldn't hire the best and the brightest.
Right.
Now, there's obviously some great people I worked with.
But this was on a different level.
Years. But suddenly I'm making a movie for over $100 million and I've got, just the greatest, department heads. And my AD was better than I was. My, my DP,
amazing.
My camera operator.
Has he been the AD on all 3?
No. Lars started on 2.
On 2. I love Lars.
Lars, who is now a DC employee. Lars, who is now, running a lot of our production at DC.
Love him.
He was my AD.
That was the thing that when I walked on set, the crew, they were so amazing. And your DP, sorry for memory lapse.
Henry.
Henry
Bram, who shot
fucking
he shot Guardians 3, Suicide Squad, Guardians 2. He shot The Flash, which people are going to see is just one of the greatest movies ever made. So it's like he's an incredibly talented guy.
Such a wonderful guy. He just the way he's like, "Hey Michael, how you been, man?" How's it going? He's so laid back. He doesn't let it. He's not. He freaks out sometimes.
Yeah, Henry's not laid back.
He's got to freak out. You have a big personality.
I didn't say he freaked out. I just said he's not laid back.
All right. He's a little anxious.
He can seem laid back, but that's all right. Just a man.
I don't see those things because I'm not
an intense guy.
Right. I normally don't write questions down, but I did because I didn't want to forget them. But I have Suicide Squad and Peacemaker are stories about very flawed people. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they're all my stories are.
How do you handle stories about Superman or Wonder Woman who are not flawed and are basically gods?
Well, I'm not writing Wonder Woman. I am writing Superman.
I know.
But I think that's, Superman's flawed. I mean, not all characters have flaws. It's not as if he's not flawed. But he's also probably not, he's not flawed in the same way Peter Quill is. Peter Quill's a mess.
Right.
He's not flawed. Peter Quill isn't flawed in the same way Rocket Raccoon is flawed. Rocket Raccoon's a real mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like these are really deeply injured characters, and Superman is different than that. But I think that it's very indicative of my own journey that I've been on, personally, through my life. I think that I was a lot more flawed when I started writing Guardians than I am when I started writing Superman. I'm a lot less anxious. I'm a lot less. I don't have the same problem.
Which is amazing to me. How are you less anxious now with all that's on your plate? I was having this conversation with Chris McDonald, our mutual good friend. And I said, I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he is not just like, if you give me more than one thing to focus on, I'm stressed. I'm anxious. But the fact that you have a whole studio and all this TV and video games and Superman and all that, and what do you do to make yourself not stressed?
Well, I meditate and I pray and I do things, and I'm not going to pretend like I'm not stressed, but I think in general, I'm okay. I'm pretty fluid, and I think that I have a great acceptance in, accepting what I cannot change and having the courage to change the things that I can change. And so I think that being able to be, sober, first of all, is a huge help. Many years sober, being able to meditate, being able to, realize that I can only do what I can do. When you have a job as big as what my job is now, like I could be working 24 hours a day easily, but I
kill yourself
and kill myself. But I can only do what I can do. And I know that I need to take care of myself. Also, frankly, I love working. I'm not a guy who doesn't like working. Somebody wrote me on Twitter the other day. They said, how do you balance, I know what it was. They were asking, I was saying something I was reading as a comic book. I was reading Alan Moore's Wildcats comic. And then they said to me, are you reading this for pleasure or are you reading this for professional reasons? And I said, and I didn't say anything. I don't think. I just remember seeing the thing and thinking about that. And I'm like, what? Why was I reading it? and I thought I do everything I do for both of those things. I mean,
if you like something, you want to make it.
Well, I'm inspired by things that I read, and I look for inspiration. I look for new ways of handling superheroes and science fiction that are in comic books. I look for characters that we can use in the DCU in different ways that maybe I don't know so much about. But I'm also reading for pleasure because I like reading comic books, and that's, I'm going to read that.
Right.
Some things are much more for, I read some comic book runs that I'm not a great fan of that are, more specific to what our story might be in the DCU. That is a little bit more professional. And then I read other things like, Alan Moore, which I am reading in a lot of ways for pleasure as much as I am for professional.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything's a mix. I like working, I like everything inspires everything else,
Do you think that there are two, obviously I'm asking a studio head, so this, I have a feeling what the answer is going to be, but
am I the first studio head that you've interviewed here?
Yeah, I know a couple. I should invite them, but no, I don't want to.
Why?
Because it's different. It's different. You're a studio head, but you make huge movies and you direct them and produce them and write them. It's like, it's just more interesting than, yes, I say yes or no. Do you think that there are too many superhero shows and movies? And because I remember when I did Smallville, there were none.
Yeah, I do think there's too many.
So what do you do about that?
But I don't think it's much less a problem of too many. And yes, we're not going to overextend ourselves at DC. We're going to be very careful with the product that we put out and making sure everything is as good as it can possibly be. But I think that what's happened is people have gotten really lazy with their superhero stories. And they have gotten to the place where, it's a superhero, let's make a movie about it. You know? And let's make a sequel because the first one did pretty well. And they aren't thinking about, why is this story special? What makes this story stand apart from other stories? What is the story at the heart of it all? Why is this character important? What makes this story different that it fills a need for people in theaters to go see, or on television?
And that's a hard thing, isn't it?
And I think that it's just that's kind of gotten, people have gotten a little lazy, and there's a lot of, biff pow bam stuff happening in movies. And like, I'm watching third acts of superhero films where I really just don't feel like there's a rhyme or reason to what's happening.
You don't care.
I don't care about the characters.
Right.
And it's and they've gotten too generic. Like there's this sort of, middle of the road, type of, genre tone that so many superhero movies have, as opposed to having, very different genres. I mean, I like very serious superhero movies. I like very comedic superhero movies. I like ones that are really just, a murder mystery, but it's, with superheroes. I like to see these different types of stories as opposed to seeing the same story told over and over again. Right. I don't know how many times I don't want to go off on anything.
No, you're not. But it's honest, and I think people really need to hear that because it's sincere in a sense that you're also a fan. And you want to make movies that have impact, that have them, that people want to see and not recycle things. So you want to sort of condense it to let's make something that we really, not that people don't work hard on everything they do, everybody works hard, but the stories have to be more compelling. Yeah.
And I think that also, like, and then people say superhero fatigue, but I think that, you see now that it's not a real thing. People are fatigued with repetition. And I don't think it's really just superhero movies. I think you're seeing it happening now. It's spectacle films in general.
I think it's more than that. I think when's the last great comedy? Do you remember the last great comedy?
Yeah, but there are so few of them made that you don't have, but there's a lot of spectacle films made, and they just have gotten really generic and they've gotten boring, and they aren't about characters, and there's no emotion to them. And there should be emotion in things no matter what. Like that should always be there. Some type of emotion. I'm not saying it can't be really light. I'm not saying it can't be really heavy. I'm saying there should be some sort of emotion.
You're right, and that goes with horror and comedy and everything.
That's right.
It's just all the...
You got to care, like in a horror movie, if you like that main character, then you're much more scared when they're about to
If you care about them.
Exactly.
If you take the time to make...
The stakes matter.
And it doesn't even matter big stars. Think about it. If you put out a movie, let's say James Gunn put out a movie with DC for DC, or you made another Marvel's a Suicide. Well, this guy was DC. But if you put it out there and it was a bunch of no names, if the trailer's great, people are going to see it. They don't care if so-and-so's in my opinion, especially horror movies, maybe not as much in the big Marvel DC universe. Maybe you need some stars, but like for the
I'm telling you, no, it's much more important to me that the actor fits the role. And look at Guardians. I mean, Zoe was somewhat of an established name when we started out, but she was the biggest star we had in the movie.
Chris wasn't, and he was
Chris wasn't a star at all.
Exactly.
He was not a star. And Dave Bautista was not even known to the general public.
But don't you think that's why it kind of worked? That's why it worked.
I don't think it's because of that it worked. I think that if we had a big star who came in and killed his Star-Lord, it would have done well. But I think that it's about the performances first and foremost. And that when you have, characters like and those were unknown characters, by the way. The characters were not celebrities. A couple 100,000 people read Guardians comics before the movie came out.
Yeah.
And they also changed a lot over the years. So there was no real fan base
I didn't know what the hell it was.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Guardians of the Galaxy was. I hadn't read the comics. I was a horror movie, Fangoria.
Yeah.
I know you read Fangoria. So I wasn't, so it was definitely it was a risk.
Yeah.
It was a risk because it wasn't something like Superman that they know. Okay, we know this.
Chris Pratt gave a speech at the end of, as we were wrapping up the third movie. And he gave this beautiful speech. And he was crying. I didn't cry at all. He was crying profusely, just sobbing like a baby.
This is what he does with Pratt. This is their joke.
So he was very much crying like a baby. And it was a little embarrassing in how much he went on and cried. Like, I got to say, this is not what the story is about, but it was sort of embarrassing how much he
was a big baby.
Big baby. And people, a lot of people were snickering. I wasn't, a lot of people were laughing.
His wife was embarrassed.
If we ever show the tape, like in the behind the scenes, she's going to, it's cringy.
Oof.
No, he gave this beautiful speech. And in the speech, he was reading off, he went back and he looked up all of the articles that were written about the Guardians before the movie came out. And he's quoting, this is going to be Marvel's first bomb. And it was just all this stuff about nobody caring about these characters, Wow. And it was,
you cried.
What?
You cried.
I cried. I got teary. I got a very masculine tear. Sure. But I will admit, I cried a lot at Zoe's speech. It was really,
Okay.
I think
I don't know if you're fucking with Pratt again on that.
I'm not. I think he probably gets jealous when I say that, but it's true. I cried a lot in her speech.
I wish people knew they were there on your wedding day when Pratt read the. So James wrote something for Pratt to read, and I'm not kidding. I could not stop laughing. Everyone was just, and it was like, I owe everything I am to James Gunn. Without me, I'd still be the heavyset. It just went, and it was like, his wife's much prettier than my wife. And it went on. And on.
I wrote a speech for Chris, and he read it at the wedding. And I've never shared this, but it's like, I read the speech. Yeah. And he wrote this, and he comes up and he goes, my name is Chris Pratt. And then he goes on.
I owe everything I have.
Yeah, he talks about how foxy my wife is, and how
and of course he's reading what James wrote.
He's like, I married Catherine. She's pretty good, and then he would break, and he's like, I'm sorry, Catherine, I didn't, and he goes on, and he talked about how much better the Guardians movies are than the Jurassic Park movie or Jurassic World movies.
Yes. Oh my God,
it was very funny.
Aging, I thought it was the best part.
He was so funny. He was so funny the way he delivered it, and people afterwards were like, because his acting was so good. People were like, "Did you really not read that till you went up there?" Well, half the people were like, "Chris, did you really write that?"
I thought that at first. I was like,
"Yeah,
did you actually write this?"
And it's like, "No, I wrote it." But and then the other half were like, "Did you really not read it before you went up there?" And because he goes, because he acted like he hadn't read the speech before he started reading it. It was
so good.
But we had actually come up. We were flying back from San Diego Comic-Con, and we were talking about what he was going to read at my wedding, and then we came up with that concept together. So,
do you know what the best speech though? And I'm always saying this because you talk about flawed characters.
Yeah.
And I think you write about flawed characters, knowing you, because you are a flawed character, and you kind of relate to those characters who, are, they're kind of that group of guys that are misfits. It's like the land of misfit toys, I think you called us once. Mm-hmm. They're all your friends, and it's like, what was it? I'm Charlie in the box. I'm not, whatever.
That's you.
That's me. Am I Charlie in the box?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Your voice is that irritating.
But you said you had this speech, and it was really personal, and everybody there was just holy shit. And it was the most sincere, I've seen you honest, but like this, you said something because I could relate to. That's why I think I cried for sure. I know Stevie cried. Pretty much everybody cried. But you said, I know intellectually, I'm not quoting you exactly. You wrote it much better than I'm going to repeat. But you said that my friends love me, that my mom loves me.
Yeah.
I know that because I'm smart enough to understand that, of course, they love me.
Yeah.
But I've never been able to feel it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And that crushed a lot of people because I think that is where a lot of people can kind of relate. I always feel like I know I had these friends who love me.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I don't think I'm worthy of that. Or I'm like, and then you met Jen and she taught you how to love yourself in a way. And there was, I don't know how you said it, but maybe you want to.
All right. Yeah. So, and I've shared this publicly before.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I have. The thing is that I lived, I love creating and I love telling stories. But like a lot of people in the entertainment industry, I think that I had an underlying desire to be loved. That my quest for fame and money and notoriety and status was a quest to have people love me so that I feel okay about myself, right?
Yep.
That's what a huge part of my quest was. Now, there was a healthy part of it, which is the part that like to create, that like to tell stories. The part that my brothers and I playing with, Fisher Price characters, in the basement. Like you're still telling stories in that way. You're still playing.
Shooting 8mm in the forest.
8mm, all of that stuff. Right. But I really wanted to be rich and famous, like a lot of people did.
I'm glad you admit that because I don't know how many times I said, come on. People will say, oh, I never want to be famous. I think that's a lot of bullshit. I think people do want fame.
Yeah. Yeah, until you get it. Yeah.
Yes. If you're not happy before you get it, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that, and when I got fired, which people know happened, I was temporarily fired by Disney and let go. For a beat there, it was like, holy shit. I have been working my entire life to be loved by all of these people, by the world, so that I can feel okay about myself. And everything I've worked for is gone. Like at that point, I thought that I was going to have to sell my house, move away, that my career was completely over. And for a brief moment, it was really more than a brief moment. It was devastating for, but really devastating for about an hour. And then I started to try to take care of myself, do the best I can. But the thing that was so amazing to me was in that moment of lowness when I couldn't help anyone, because I'd had a fair amount of power for a while, right? And I couldn't help anyone is when people came to me and showed me the greatest love. People like you, especially my future wife, Jen, my family, my mom and dad, Chris Pratt, Dave Bautista, Pom Clementieff, all of the Guardians, Zoe coming over and cooking me dinner, Sylvester Stallone, the amount of people, that showed me this love in a moment when I was completely weak. My agents, Simon Hatt, my producer, all of these people, just, it was stunning to me. And for the first time I felt like for the first time in my life, I felt loved. And so that thing that I had been searching for my entire life to feel loved from something outside of me, to make myself feel okay, I could not experience it until I let go of my desperation to receive it. And that was when I felt truly okay. And I woke up that morning thinking, this is the worst day of my entire life. I laid in bed that whole night going, I hate being fucking famous. I hate being fucking famous. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And I woke up that morning. It was the worst day of my entire life. And I went to bed that night and I was lying next to Jen and I looked over at her and I realized how much I loved her. I realized that I wanted to marry her. And I said, this is the best day of my life. I'm actually, myself. And it only took me another 5 years to ask her to marry me. But that was for me, that was the beginning of everything. That was the beginning of a second life. That was me really being able to then focus and say, okay, let go of the need to be loved, let go of the need to be rich. Like what I need to just focus on is, why do I love making movies? And it's for the story. I love the characters. It's the collaboration with the other department heads, the other filmmakers, the actors. Like, that's why I love making movies and telling stories. I love the audience reacting to my movies. I love the fact right now that, people all over the world every day are saying, such sweet things. And it really is about the creative process for me. And if I can focus on that, then that's what makes me happy.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. It's amazing how you told it, but you think something is going to make you happy. You think the money, the fame, this, and all of a sudden you get thrown on your ass and you're just like, you're numb. I know that numb feeling, that numb feeling of just like almost like embarrassed, shame, nothing. And you're like, who really is going to be there? Because you don't expect that moment to happen at this point in your life. And then boom, and they're like, we love you. Yeah. We don't care.
Well, and the weird thing was too, Michael, that like the thing was I think, people like me because I'm smart and I make good movies and I direct them well.
It's not for the real you.
That is part of me. Right?
I know.
That's all part of me. But the thing that really saved me was that I had been incredibly kind to people over the years, and so by being kind to people, by being kind to my crew people, by making them feel like people, by giving them respect, by forming genuine bonds with human beings, that wasn't just about career or getting something out of them or whatever. That was the thing that I felt that I had put into my life that had worked so well, was just a gentle kindness to everyone. And I'm not a saint, right? I'm not kind all the time. It's not like there haven't been times when I've been unkind, but in general, I've been really kind to people throughout my entire career, and it makes all the difference.
It does.
And a lot of people aren't.
I was just talking about this, especially with studio heads, and ultimately, whether you're in the real world and you work for a corporation or you work for Disney or whoever you work with, a lot of times when you renegotiate, you really feel unloved and like disrespected, and you don't feel. Yeah. And I don't know how many times where it's just like,
but when you negotiate, oftentimes the first time
it's the worst.
Yeah,
but it could be so much. Not even the money. If creators or head of studios could just give a call every once in a while to just say, or talk to someone.
Yeah,
not even heads of studios. I'm talking about from whoever, from a director to just saying, hey, I really want to say I appreciate your work and thanks for all your hard work. That's it. Something instead of just coming into there's just like, if it's more of a connection, these things don't sort of happen as big. And I just think that that's part of, I think greed is more prominent than ever. Maybe not. Maybe it's always been there, and greed has been there. But I always feel like if I'm doing something and it's making a little money, I'm going to give this guy who's working with me or helping me a little bit of something. Yeah. I'm going to try and because I want them to know that I really love them and I appreciate them. It's got to be hard to be a studio head and do that, because how hard, how can you do that?
Well, I think it's, my job's the same. I'm still directing, right? I'm just directing bigger projects and different things. And so I think that it's through appreciation, it's something was modeled quite well for me by Kevin Feige and Lou D'Esposito, who are the heads of Marvel and who always let me know that they appreciated my work. I always knew that they appreciated it. Like, I always came in under budget and I knew they appreciated that. I always knew that they liked the movies themselves that I was creating. So I think that you need to let people know that. I think that my cast knows how much I appreciate what they do.
And the crew
hugely. Like, a lot of directors, you just never hear the crew come out of their mouths when they're doing interviews.
Yeah.
But, I talk about Beth Mickle, who's my production designer all the time. I talk about Judiana Makovsky, who does my costume designs.
Awesome.
Those, by the way, I hired a new editor yesterday. He came in and I said, you got to get used to, we do a different thing. The departments all work together. Like, I have a crew of people around me now who've been around me for a long time. And Judiana and Beth are on all my phone calls because the three of us together, along with Steph, our VFX supervisor, and Henry, the DP,
they're going to get the vision.
We are all the aesthetics of Superman, right? So we all have to work together to create this one unified aesthetic. The same thing that we all did on Suicide Squad, the same thing we all did on Guardians 3. We have to work together to create one unified aesthetic. And so it's not really there's not a sharp division between photograph and set, or between costume and hair and set. And so those people are a part of all these choices, you know, and we interact with makeup, with hair, with legacy, our prosthetic effects department. All of those things have to work together, because one thing I noticed early on when I started directing bigger movies was I would watch other big movies, and I don't want to name them, but occasionally I'd see another big movie where it's like, well, you can tell that the costume designer wasn't on the same page with the set designer, wasn't on the same page with the hair designer. And they're all individually great pieces of work, but together they don't fit. It
has to be a palette.
They don't look like it's a similar palette, but it's also just, there's a look, there's an aesthetic that you want to, put against everything, And so, and especially with my movies, with how we're doing Superman, we're creating an aesthetic that hasn't, existed before. So
what is that? No.
Well, you'll
have to see it.
But I mean, it's about creating something different. And so you really need to make sure that everybody, I started talking about how those people aren't mentioned, and I just went on to other stuff. But anyway,
no, but you mentioned
those people aren't brought up a lot.
Right.
And you don't understand, like, everybody's actors. And the actors are incredibly important. They create a lot. But man, if you talk about an actor versus what Beth Mickle did, who created all the sets, like, really the biggest voice is Beth's.
Yeah.
She's, in terms of what Guardians 3 is, Beth is as important as anybody.
Yeah. With Superman, I know you can't talk too much about it. I mean, you mentioned in a couple of tweets. Is it true there'll be a Crypto dog? Crypto the dog? Is that what it's called?
There is a dog named Crypto in the comics. Yeah.
So was that just a tweet you can't mention, or you're smiling?
I didn't say that in a tweet.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, somebody else was doing it.
Yeah, somebody
mentioned Crypto. Maybe it was a joke. Yeah. So who knows?
Yeah, Chris Pratt and I were talking about Crypto in a interview, and I said that he could play Crypto.
Oh, okay.
And then Chris goes, "Oh, now we're saying that Crypto's in the movie. That's a scoop."
Ah, gotcha. Do you feel like, out of all the big movies you've done, and you've done big fucking movies, be honest, you will be.
Yeah.
Do you feel the most pressure with Superman?
I did, up until I finished the script. Now it's fun.
You love the script.
I love the script, and people love the script. And so, like, I feel great about the script, right? I felt a shitload of pressure at the beginning.
Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Do you go through those phases?
Why am I doing this? Definitely. But I think that it was, people know I was offered Superman years ago. I said no because I didn't know quite how to tackle it. And I think that, but because of that, I kept thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. How could I create a Superman that's true to the character of Superman, that absolutely loves the character Superman, and yet is a take on Superman that's different enough that it's worth, making a big budget movie about it. That it's worth people seeing it, that it won't be boring, all of those things. So now I feel good about it. So now it's fun. Now we're just finding, and then I felt a lot of pressure, frankly, finding, casting the roles.
Sure.
And, saying, God, is there even, I know how hard, it was so hard to find Star-Lord. I can't tell you. I looked at hundreds of people before Chris.
I met with you.
You did.
Yeah.
And yours was the worst. It was
the worst
I know.
Of all. I'm aware of it.
No, I mean, I saw so many people for Star-Lord. I couldn't find the right person until Chris. And so I was worried about that. But now that we've kind of done a lot of auditions, we're narrowing it down. We're not done yet. By the way, there's a lot of stories out there about who were auditioning and all these screen tests and all that. I'm just saying it's not all true. That's for sure. Like there's things in there that are completely false. Yeah. But I can't go out there and say, oh, this isn't true and this isn't true without saying, you know.
Can I ask you this?
Going through everything. And by the way, it's not the audience's, you know, right now at this point, I don't think it's the business of anyone who's screen testing for a role. That is a very private thing.
So if someone does that, shut your mouth.
Someone's putting, well, listen, journalists have to do what they have to do. That's their job.
How would a journalist find out?
They're trying to get hits. They find out some things from agencies, but here's the problem, is that they find out some things from agencies that might be true. They find out other things from agencies, which are agencies pushing their clients and trying to make
pump it up. Like, look, don't you see it? Because there's been some things out there. I'm like, what?
I think
this person?
I think my client is testing. Yeah. So it's like there's a lot of nonsense that comes out of it. And that's difficult because there's people out there that are supposedly testing that aren't. And that must be difficult for them as people. And there's other people that might be testing that might be testing.
Yeah.
And that are out there that might be testing. And I think it's not, it's a private thing between me and them.
Or someone that puts themselves on tape. And then they say, oh, I tested. You put yourself on tape.
That happens too.
That happens.
Well, the thing that, you know, that happens also is people say, hey, they offered me this movie. Like directors do that. I'm like,
I had that with somebody who was on my podcast saying, oh yeah, they offered me the role of Lex Luthor. I go, no, they didn't. They didn't offer anybody the role of Lex Luthor. Then I called the creator and go, hey, dude. This gives, no.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we had somebody say that. We had these directors say it about a DC project. They offered us this project. I'm like, no. They met with one of our executives about potential projects to pitch on.
Right.
That isn't the same as offering.
It probably, you just have to let it go and go, I'm not fucking even entertaining this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, but whatever the case, there's a lot of untruths out there.
Sure. Let me ask you this, or just promise that, or will the Lex Luthor character, there'll be a Lex Luthor, right? Isn't that already known?
Yeah, everybody thinks there's a Lex Luthor out there, but I've never said there was a Lex Luthor in there.
All right, so if there were a Lex Luthor.
If there were a Lex Luthor, okay.
If there were a Lex Luthor in this movie, and there's a lot of other villains, so it may not be Lex Luthor.
And you are the best Lex, let's admit it. We know you're the best Lex.
Come on, you're being funny.
I'm not being funny. You're definitely the best Lex.
Really?
Definitely.
But not right for your movie.
Not right for my... I didn't say there was even a Lex in the movie. So.
I know, but if there were a Lex Luthor, promise me this.
Uh-huh.
He'll have gravitas, or he'll be Lex Luthor. He won't be playing Lex Luthor, but he's more acting like this character or this or goofy or crazy. He's going to be something that's grounded and real. I know you. I'm sure that's
everything's
the case.
Grounded and real. Yeah. Yeah. Everything's grounded and real.
Because I'm not saying anybody's done that. I'm just saying that, you know,
maybe somebody's done that.
Maybe that's happened. But yeah. Anyway, we'll continue on. This is one of my last questions. You've worked on Marvel and DC films. How do the two universes differ in terms of tone, style, and approach to storytelling? And what are some of the challenges and opportunities that come with working in each?
I don't think that there's any, you know, I don't think you can, because relatively, the MCU and now the DCU in film, which really doesn't start. I mean, the first DCU character for sure is Blue Beetle, and the first full DCU movie is Superman. Now that that's happening, it's relatively new. The same thing with Marvel. I mean, even MCU is relatively new. So I don't know if there's any innate things about tone, because I think that what both MCU and DCU need to do is to have a wider range of tones than they presently do. I think they work to do that, but I think they can do a better job of it.
Yep.
The biggest, but if you look at the MCU, there are very few superheroes. There are very few traditional superheroes. There was never a guy with a secret identity until Spider-Man in the MCU. Their Cap was turned into a soldier, even though he wears a mask.
And that's all there was in DC.
Iron Man outed himself at the end of the first Iron Man because they don't want to deal with the secret identity stuff. So there is a bit more of a fantasy element to DCU. because they're these larger than life superheroes, and you can't take that. You're not going to make. I mean, people are going to do whatever they're going to do in the future. But for me, there's Superman and Clark Kent. Like, they're two different characters, and you have to find a way to deal with them that's as grounded as possible within this world of DC. One of the things I love about DC and excites me about DC is that, in a way, it's another alternate history. It is Gotham City and Metropolis and Star City and Bloodhaven and all these different places in this other reality, and it makes it a little bit like Westeros in some ways. I love that about it. I love that we get to create true world building in DC. It isn't just we're throwing some superheroes on Earth.
Yeah. I like that.
So I think that right now that's one of the key differences.
What's your favorite Marvel movie besides Guardians?
MCU or Marvel?
Both.
My favorite MCU movie is Iron Man.
The original.
Yes.
Love it.
I think it's an incredibly great movie. But my favorite Marvel movie is probably Deadpool, which...
Really?
Well, actually, no. My favorite Marvel movie is Into the Spider-Verse.
People love that movie. Yeah, everybody loves that movie.
It's great.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. You haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse?
I know. I'm going to see it.
Oh, dude, it's the best superhero movie ever made.
Really?
I think so.
You love it that much?
I do love it.
DC, favorite movie of all time. DC movie.
First Superman. I mean, it's...
What behind you? Signed by Gene Hackman.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. You did a better job.
I love Gene Hackman, but he played, I loved, anyway, I'm not going to
taking the wig off at the end. I had to hear you bitch about your bald head for years.
Only because they wanted to shave it twice a day. I was getting nicked. I was bleeding. I was like, I couldn't lay down because I would get makeup on there. I was a whiny bitch.
Audience. Yeah.
I should have cried with Pratt on that video.
You complained a lot about your bald head.
All right. Well, is Peacemaker really coming back, or is there just no time for it?
No, Peacemaker's coming back right after Superman. That's my next thing.
So then you'll just
go straight into Superman. Yeah. I mean, go straight from Superman to Peacemaker.
Suicide Squad 2?
But Waller's first, and Waller's a lot of the same people from Peacemaker. So, I mean, this is all, yeah. But yeah.
Suicide Squad 2?
Is there? No.
You don't have any plans for doing that. All right, this is the shit talking. These are my top tier patrons. It's rapid fire. All right?
All right.
Shit talking with James Gunn. Patreon.com/inside of you. Thank you for listening. You guys make the show possible. James Gunn, what is your all-time favorite TV theme song? I bet you can name mine, probably.
My favorites, I mean, I'm sure there's one that I like more, but I think of the Taxi theme song.
Oh, that strings at your,
tugs
at your heart.
Yeah, because it gives you that feeling,
What was it?
Also, welcome back, Cotter. What about Welcome Back, Cotter?
Oh, well, the names have all changed since you hung around, and the dreams that you... Hang on. Wait, what was it?
You got to be...
Dude, we'll edit this, don't worry. That is, I think that's mine. I swear to God, I'm not saying it. This is my favorite. It's a different version.
Yeah, that's a weird, yeah.
Find the right
But
version.
come on, I mean,
love it.
There's something about that.
Driving over the bridge.
Song. Yeah, and you're just like, I think about being like, it's just so peaceful to me.
Also MASH. Dun, dun.
Yeah, MASH is good. Hill Street Blues. Like, there's certain ones that I remember from childhood that make me feel like, certain calmness.
Yeah, I love that. If Nathan J, if the Guardians of the Galaxy fought the Suicide Squad, who would win?
I
think Suicide Squad guys are more violent.
They're more willing, but I just don't. I think that. Listen, I always thought that the Guardians would beat the shit out of the Avengers easily. Like, it's just they're outer space. They have technology that is pretty advanced, so it'd be hard to beat them.
Dave P, any more sleeper 80s hair metal bands you plan to use for the theme songs and upcoming projects?
Oh, well, I mean, Peacemaker season 2, I've already got
I love that music.
Yeah, that's a great.
That's I like that shit.
And there's a lot of cool modern bands.
Yes.
Wigwam and Cruel Intentions, and
it just goes with the show. It's like you have your actors, the music, it all comes to, you know what I mean?
Man, I got a new soundtrack for Creature Commandos, that's actually the first full DCU project. So that's the animated show we're doing, and that comes out in a year or so, but it's we're recording it all now.
I do voiceovers. I've been doing voiceovers for my entire life. Anyway, Michelle K, what's something surprising you learned about yourself in the last year? Well, I think we talked about that.
Well, that was more than a year ago. In the past year,
well, think about it. In the past year, you got married. You took over DC. You bought a house in, again, I won't say it.
Yeah,
Colorado.
Yeah.
You've been transitioned back and forth to LA and
Atlanta.
Yeah. So how you feeling?
I'm just trying to think of something I've learned about myself in the past year.
Do you miss seeing your friends so as frequently as we always used to hang? Obviously you can't because
yeah, I miss seeing my friends as often as I did. Yeah.
Good answer.
Thanks, dude.
Nico P, you do such an amazing job of weaving humor and emotion into your films. Who helped influence that for you, or was it just like something you just?
I look to a lot of different, filmmakers and storytellers that I like, but I go back to Preston Sturges, who was, great comedy filmmaker, from the the 40s mostly and 50s, and who created just these really, wonderful, beautiful, emotional, and hilarious stories like Sullivan's Travels.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's that, there's Superman, there's Star Wars films had that.
Raj, tell me what you miss most about your life prior to finding success in the film industry.
One of the weird things for me is my success has been, there's jumps, but it's been incredibly gradual.
Yeah.
Really gradual.
Yeah.
So, I started working professionally in my 20s, making movies for Troma. And to me, that was as exciting as anything, because all of a sudden I'm making a living making movies. I remember going on the subway every day to the set of Romeo and Juliet and going, oh my God, I can't believe they're spending $350,000 making this movie. That seemed to be an astronomical sum. So everything's been pretty gradual, and I've been in the film industry for, my adult life for the most part, and was working professionally as a musician before that.
Yeah. So it has happened. Like, for instance, I always talk about it, but like on Smallville, Tom Welling had overnight success. It really just,
that's
boom.
Right.
I never had that. You never had that. Right. I was like doing independent or a short or whatever.
I had elements of it.
Sure.
I remember that, the morning that Scooby-Doo opened up, Lorenzo de Bonaventura called me at 5:30 on Saturday morning and said, the movie made $18 million yesterday. That was an enormous sum. And I knew at that moment that my career as a screenwriter was sort of set. So it was huge. Same thing with Guardians. When the first Guardians opened up and, I'm getting a call on Friday night saying that, the movie was supposed to make 60 and the movie, I think the movie was supposed to make like 45 or something. I can't remember.
What did it make?
97, I think, opening weekend. So it was like instantly I knew, shit, I'm a made man as a director. Like that was huge. So, I have had those huge moments.
Yeah. What's great about being friends with someone who has, a lot of money and power. When you took me to that restaurant, the Michelin, what was it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, for the bachelor party.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We went to
I never would have ever. I really have good meals as it is.
The 13 course.
And I just was like, Rooker and I were looking at each other while we're eating going, what the hell, man? This is great. What is this? I don't know. Fuck it. I'm eating it.
Yeah.
We didn't care what it was. We just kept eating it.
Rooker and I have eaten at a lot of nice restaurants together.
Well, that one was holy shit. For me, I'm talking for me.
Rooker and I went to Paris together.
Sorry.
Went on
sorry.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Yeah.
We went on a romantic trip to Paris and just went every night. We went to another 3 Michelin star restaurant, and we had incredibly great meals. The funniest part was the first night we went to like a place that was really delicious but not too expensive, and I paid. And the next night we went to the next place, and Rooker's like, "I'll take this one," and it was at a $3,000.
Did he mention it?
He didn't.
He didn't say like, "Oh man, maybe you want to chip in on this one."
He's like, yeah. That's what I got paid for Guardians 1.
Last question, Jessica B. When was the last time you said no and felt good about it?
Felt no and
said no.
That's a really interesting question. I mean, I think that the worst thing about being a studio person is I didn't know the amount of I never really considered the amount of people we were going to need to say no to. No, we're not picking up your show, or no, we're not going to, whatever. It is the freaking worst. Yeah. And it's not a big part of my job actually, but it's the worst.
Yeah.
Because it's always been much more about me. As a director, I've always had to hire people, and I feel like I've said yes to a lot of people. I guess I have to say no because people audition and they don't get the gig.
Yeah.
But I guess I just always focus more on the yeses than on the nos.
Right.
And I feel the nos more in my gut now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but I say no every day and I feel good about it.
Surprised you didn't say no to this podcast, James.
Yeah. I've said no lots of times.
You
to
did.
This podcast.
You did.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that you came over.
It's the only podcast I'm doing.
Is that true?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'm doing it because we're friends.
Did you enjoy this?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Last question. I said that 4 times. No, we're really almost done. We started a little late, but you got to get out of here. Lastly, about your dad, I loved Jibby Sr. He was the best. He just had such a presence. Every one of your friends, I mean, I would text him.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah. I loved him. I know he passed, and I know that the family's going out to Ireland to scatter his ashes.
Yeah.
When are you doing that?
I'm doing that on Monday.
Are you really?
Yeah.
It's happening that soon.
Yeah.
Are you expecting a pretty emotional journey with the family?
I don't know. Listen, my dad wanted me to scatter his ashes, so I'm going to Ireland to scatter his ashes. We've had the funeral. I cry all the time about my dad. It's not like I don't cry about my dad.
Of course.
I cry about my dad once a week at least,
Yeah.
Cry about my dog. Cried about my dog this morning. I was telling the person cutting my hair about my dog Wesley and how he passed away.
The best.
So
just don't do it like Big Lebowski.
Don't do what? Like,
remember the ashes and Big Lebowski all over his face.
Yeah. So no. So we're going to the county, our home.
How many people? How many family members?
All the kids. So it's 6 kids, and then a lot of the significant others are going. So we're all married. So there's maybe four of the significant others are going.
Nice.
Maybe a couple some of the nephews and nieces are going too, I think.
Awesome. This has been awesome. Really, I loved having you. It's like the most I came over your house a while ago and we talked, but this is like one-on-one, and I want to take as much as I could with me.
Yeah.
So
thanks. I love it. I mean, listen, it's always fun being here. It's always very natural.
Yeah, it is. All right.
Okay, buddy. I love you.
Thanks, man.
Bye.
I love that interview. And what's great is we didn't, a lot of times you have to cut out a lot of stuff. You're talking to a studio head, and James, he wasn't like that. He's like, yeah, it's great. Let's do it. His publicists were cool. They're like, we'd like to hear it first. And, we didn't change anything. It was easy, fun. It just, again, felt like two buddies having a conversation. It wasn't hard for me at all. What do you think?
No, I can tell you guys have a history, and it's got to be weird to watch, like, especially like just to be in your 20s in LA and then just to watch everyone's careers go, and then to watch some people like skyrocket and some people just plateau and then some people go the opposite direction. It's got to be weird.
You insinuating my career is going nowhere?
You skyrocketed.
Wow.
You were the skyrocket. James Gunn is just sort of plateaued.
No, he is plateaued.
He's just.
You know what? I was thinking about
new.
this. I knew a lot of people on the way up or the way down, or you got your career goes up and down. Of course, you just can't keep going up. People have lulls, but it's the perseverance. It's the, when adversity hits you, like we talk in the podcast about all the shit that went down, and you find your real friends that are there for you and still love you. And that's when you really find happiness, when you can say, hey, I made a mistake, and I did, and you still have people there to support and love you. It's a good thing. It's a good feeling. I've had that in my life, where I just really, for lack of a better word, hit a wall and went to a place to help myself and get my head clear. And so it was it's good. It's good to see. And I've been around. I'm not that old, but I am old now. Older. I look a little younger than I am. Let's be honest.
Well, that's true.
That's good. Thank you. It's lack of work. But I remember seeing Bradley Cooper at a bar and talking to him and hanging out with him. And he was going through a dark time on that show that he was on back in the 2000s. It wasn't Dark Angel. It was the one with Jennifer Garner. Alias. And then look at his career. It just couldn't have gotten bigger. And then, I remember seeing Chris Pratt at a party and hanging out with him, and just a lovable guy, and hasn't changed a bit. And now blockbuster movie star. And it's nice to see good things happen to good people. I've certainly hung out with people that have skyrocketed that I'm like, could have happened to a better person, And then you see a lot of actors that are way better than me and a lot of other actors, and they just can't seem to find their way or get that lucky break. And but it's the work. You got to put the work in, and it's not going to just happen. It's not like the old days where somebody sees a good-looking guy and go, hey, I want you to be in this lead role in my movie. It just doesn't happen, and people wait for that. I think people still think that's going to happen. You've got to go out there, man. You've got to knock on every door. You've got to look like an asshole. You've got to fail and build some integrity. And I'm boring myself. Here we go. Thank you, James. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Please subscribe, write a review. Helps the show. Follow us on our handles. And here are the top tier patrons. Patreon.com/inside of you. These folks do wonders for my career and the podcast. You guys support the podcast. There's a lot of perks. I send boxes every couple of months and to the top tiers, and I try to message people as much as I can. And I see them at cons. It's like a big family. So join. Here are the top tiers: Nancy D, Leah K, Little Lisa, Yukiko, Jill E, Brian H, Nico P, Robert B, Jason W, Sophie M, Raj C, Joshua D, Jennifer N, Stacy L, Jamal F, Janelle B, Mike E, Eldon Supremo, 99 more, Santiago M, Chad W, Leanne P, Maya P, Maddie S. How about a drink of water?
Belinda N, Dave H, Sheila G, Brad D, Ray H, Tabitha T, Tom N, Talia M, Betsy D.
I like how Ryan read a few. Ryan never gets to read a few.
I pull it up on my phone.
No, but I'm glad you're reading a few now.
I think it's just because we just recorded a Talkville one, and Tom just takes it. You guys just alternate.
Yeah.
I was feeling that flow.
Tom hogs out. He hogs them. Do you notice that? He says most of the names. It's okay. Betsy D, Angel M, Rhiannon C, Corey K, Dev Nexon, Michelle A, Jeremy C, Brandy D, Joey M, Eugene and Leah. And I apologize again, Eugene and Leah. I had to kick you out of the, I didn't kick you out, but the baby was crying in the Smallville nights. And we, the people, we just couldn't have a baby crying the whole time. So she was a good sport. And, but I hooked her up with some extra pictures at the table and signed them. And, and I told them, next time you guys come to a Smallville nights, it's on me. It's on me and Tom. And also at that Philly con, Ryan, by the way, I forgot to bring the cards. We give these keepsakes, and it's the first time I don't know, I forgot. And so that's why we gave like 15 or more prizes at the end instead of like 4 or 5. But some people I think were disappointed that they didn't get the keepsake, that they were supposed to get everyone. And I didn't know what to do. So if you're upset, come see me at a table at a con. I'll make it up to you some way. Believe me, I will. I apologize for that. Shit happens. So leave me alone. Corey, Heather L, Angela F, Mel S, Caroline R, Christine S, Eric H, Shane R, Andrew M, Tim L, Oracle, Amanda R, Jen B, Kevin E, Stephanie K, Jarrell, Jammin J, Leanne J, Luna R, Mike F, Stone H, Brian L, Aaron R, Kendall L, Meredith I, Kara C, Jessica B, Kyle F, Marisol P, Estevan G, Kaylee J, Brian A, Ashley F, Marion Louise L, Romeo B, Veronica Q, Frank B, Jen T, Nikki L. I love you, and thank you. Patreon.com/inside of you. Thanks for listening. I hope you really enjoyed this podcast. And from the Hollywood Hills in California, I'm Michael Rosenbaum.
I'm Ryan Tails.
Ryan Tails. Sorry, Ryan. How are you doing? People miss you. They like you. You have to come to a con with me someday. Would you do
gotta
that?
give me a plane ticket. Then
I'll pay for you to come out. You just hang out with me.
Great.
Well, you can just experience it.
Yeah.
Someplace that's close. All right, guys. Take care and be good to yourself. I'll see you next week.